Welcome, everyone, to the Commentary Podcast. I am your host, Pat Brennan. Today on the podcast, we're going to be rewatching Mad Max Fury Road. It was released in 2015. It is written by George Miller, Brendan McCarthy, Nico Lathuris, and directed by George Miller. The cast of the film includes Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, Nicholas Hoult, Hugh Keys-Byrne, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley, Riley Keough, Zoe Kravitz, Abby Lee, and Courtney Eaton. An apocalyptic story set in the furthest reaches of our planet, in a stark desert landscape where humanity is broken and most everyone is crazed, fighting for the necessities of life. Within this world exist two rebels on the run who just might be able to restore order. Joining me for this rewatch of Mad Max Fury Road is one of my co-hosts, Vikash Patel. He's been on the podcast numerous times. I will once again drop all of his info in the episode description, so give him a follow and check out his podcast. Now, I'm going to be watching the Blu-ray copy I have of Mad Max Fury Road, but it is currently streaming on Max. You can also rent it on Amazon for $3.79, on Apple for $4, and on Fandango at home for $4. I say we get things kicked off. We are going to be pressing play, and I hope you do as well, on Mad Max Fury Road in 3, 2, and 1.
Welcome to Mad Max. My name's Max.
Welcome to Australia.
It's fire and blood. You have no idea how many times I've done that.
Welcome to Australia.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie for anybody listening. Also, quick plug for two things. First is Blood, Sweat, and Chrome, book by Kyle Buchanan. I'm going to be talking about the book through this. Definitely, if you like reading books, you like movies, especially this one, go read that book. And number two, Cinema Pursuit podcast. Find us wherever we are. We already had a great conversation about this movie, and I'm excited to have another one with Pat. So let's go.
Got to get all the plugs in.
And minor spoilers for Furiosa, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I will want to say that.
We're watching this post Furiosa, so
it might just come out of our mouths.
Listen with your own risk, I guess.
And if you're listening, literally, if you haven't seen Furiosa, go watch Furiosa. Because I assume you've seen Mad Max already.
Best film of the year so far.
Me. Or everyone else.
Love how they used like the same shot in Furiosa, kind of.
Yep.
When she's like walking.
And they among some other things. I mean, the opening is pretty much, word for word the same thing, except he adds things like, the pandemics and this and that. And he's like, oh, yeah, let me update the fear that I have about the world and maybe how it's going to be going with all these men that are ruining everything.
I saw someone say, like, what if the rest of the world was completely fine and this was only happening in Australia?
Australia, Civil War vibes.
Yeah.
I just watched Civil War, so like it's very much, in my mental. This movie, man, every single edit, every single shot is just straight perfection. Even the sound design is perfect, where it's like it's pushing maximalism. There's a clip of one of the sound mixers, and he's sitting there like editing, and he's like, oh yeah, like listen to this, like how does it make sense that all these cars are like revving at the same time? It's just like it sounds great, so that's the sound that we put in. It's like it's helping you.
And I'm hearing all of like the what's it called, problems on the set, and then watching the final product, you're like, because this could have gone like horrendously bad. Yeah.
But the problem was very much that no one understood fully what he was going for. And he, I'm going to give him his crap. He didn't really explain it well, apparently. I think Denny talks about it. He's like, yeah, it's like I had to, for Dune Part 2, he's like, yeah, I had to explain quite a bit of this. And I guess they got it. I didn't really think about if they're going to get it or not. I just kind of went with it. I gave him a lot of visuals.
Yeah, because I think Tom Hardy was cast. I think he was cast all the way back in like 2010.
Bro, I was waiting. I remember seeing the first photo of Max. In 2012. I remember showing it to Zach on like my old like little small smartphone and be like, "Yo, let's go." He's like, "What's Mad Max? I don't care about this."
360p.
It's Tom Hardy. 720 was all we had back then. But I'm telling you, man, as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, we're good. This is gonna be awesome.
Yeah, because
And
he had
I
this.
love that they bring these characters back. Some of these characters, they
Mhm.
very much come back, and some of them are actors that come back.
Yeah,
Scrotus, excuse me.
yeah, Scrotus.
Scrotus is did you recognize him right away? I
Oh
did.
yeah, yeah, I did. I was like, wait, wasn't he? And then I was like, oh, he's just playing a different character.
And then Thor's wife, Chris Hemsworth's wife, Elsa Pataski, she literally has
Mhm.
two roles in the movie. I was like,
Oh yeah,
is that her? Is she undercover? I was confused for a second. But okay, talk about this is the interceptor getting getting scavenged right here. But
hmm
this right here, this is the first part of the movie where like when I saw it in the theater, I was like, oh, this is something else. Where it's like the editing is just it's hyper, it's crazy, it is kinetic, but
yeah.
you see everything, right? And I hadn't seen like the Raid or John. I think I had seen the Raid in John Wick. I was like, oh, they're actually doing this on a big budget now.
So because he essentially is taking the clip and just speeding it up, so it still looks choppy,
Oh
but
yeah.
it's just going really fast.
They had, I think they spent was it 2 years in post? Because for anybody who doesn't know, they shot all the stuff in the desert first, and then all this stuff that is at the Citadel. They didn't have the money to shoot it. They literally, someone from Warner Brothers came out to the set and shut them down in Nambia in the desert. They're like, nah, 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 forget all this. Y'all done now. And they wrapped that part of the movie. And then Kevin Tushijara came in at WB and he's like, okay, I might as well clean up the mess the last guy did. I was like, I'll give you all the money to finish this up. So he gave him the money to essentially shoot the beginning and the end of the movie. And
Crazy.
obviously, I think all these parts when at the Citadel, I think most of it looks better in Furiosa, in
hmm
my opinion. We don't spend too much time there, but it looks better in that movie because they had more
Yeah.
time and money.
hmm
But this right here is horrifying. I still remember seeing this the first time, and wait for it, y'all. Yes, that
Mad
title drop. Let's
Max
go.
Fury.
If y'all don't know, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I am in an incessant mess. If y'all heard Batman Begins, I was on one that night, but that's one of my favorite movies too.
I'm just gonna let you talk the
And I
whole
love that
time.
we start. Hey, that's fine. If I've got the energy. Furiosa.
that's
This
not
is her
that's not
movie.
Anya
I don't want
Taylor
to hear any
Joy.
arguments.
I know
Anya
it
Taylor-Joy,
is.
who's that?
Never heard of her. Dude, it's crazy. Like, again, spoilers for Furiosa, but even towards the end of the movie, like her voice was sounding like Charlize. Like it was like,
Oh yeah.
damn.
What surprised me about Furiosa was I was like, wait, why is everything new? And I was like, oh, it's a prequel. I was just being so stupid. I was like, okay, we're gonna get a new vehicle. It's new at that point.
I know. I think didn't George Miller he came up with this idea in like what late '80s, like
Late
post
or
Thunderdome.
90s, essentially, but or like
Yeah.
late 80s, and then like the writing was in the 90s. Like there was a point where they're writing the movie, and he's also shooting Babe, like the second Babe movie, Pig in
hmm
the City.
hmm
So one of the writers he talks about how he got a call essentially, or I think it's a writer or one of the storyboard artists, and they're like, yeah, George Miller called you up to the building, like wherever that the Babe production and the Fury Road production are in the same place. He's like, God, I hope it's Mad Max. I hope it's Mad Max. And he got there, it's like it was Mad Max.
Yeah, I think
But
he said
he
that
would literally be
world
working on
events.
Babe and then go back and forth. It'd be like,
Because
okay, y'all need to do this, and then we'll deal with it later.
I think they were gonna start shooting in
I
the
will
'90s
say,
with Mel Gibson, and it's just like he said, like world events just kept happening, and then I think 9/11 was like the big one that delayed it for a while.
so they talked about it. He was like, okay, I'm interested in doing it. At that point, Mel is like on top. And then it got to like the early 2000s. Universal's going to give him $100 million to make the movie. The movie is starting up. And then even then, like the movie got canceled in a sense because they
Mhm.
were already in Africa. They literally made the vehicles. They're fabricating vehicles. And then they got a call like, oh, we're shut down again. And they're like, oh, chop up the vehicles. So all the crazy work of these vehicles that they had already started, they're like, oh, we had to spend 2 days. I
Damn.
spent 2 days. I think it's Colin Gibson or like one of the guys who was doing all the vehicle work. They literally just spent the time just like chopping up the vehicles.
Jeez.
I talk about this scene right here, this dialogue right here from Morton Joe on the podcast on Cinema Pursuit about how this man is this. I mean, they say it in the book. It's very much almost Trumpian figure. That's what
Yeah, kind of.
that's what he
Yeah.
is. They don't want to put it on the nose with like yellow hair.
Yeah. 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 He comes out with red hair, like orange makeup. Yeah, I saw this. I saw this opening night when this came out, 2015, by myself. Theater was pretty packed though, from what I remember. And I like, once it ended, I was just like, holy shit. And I made my
Same.
friend go immediately the next night. I was like, you gotta watch this movie. And he had no interest in it. He's like, what is this? I don't. And then like 5 minutes in, it's after essentially, I think he wasn't like on board right now. Like he was kind of just like, I still don't understand what's going on. But it was that first like chase scene. He was just like,
When she turns off the road, yeah, I
yeah.
understand.
he
Because
kind of
that's when like the tension picks up right away. It's like,
yeah.
wait, she's turning off the road.
He literally just like started to lean forward, like the like that
Yeah.
meme of him leaning. He literally just started to
Like
do
I
that.
said,
Like,
when it came to Matt to Furiosa, I was leaning back. I was just like, "Whoa, what are y'all doing with
yeah,
this one?"
I think I even tweeted it out, but it was literally the part when it was like the shot in the back, and he like went out, and the parachute opened. I was like, I literally was like, holy shit! I like leaned forward.
It's
Like,
fantastic.
let's
It's fantastic.
go. I'm locked in. But I actually think I love that Furiosa was a completely different movie because now this essentially plays like the epilogue to Furiosa. It's just one
And
long car
I
chase.
see, like, for the rest of my life, I will be the guy that says, like, I love Fury Road more than,
Mhm,
Furiosa, but it is no discount to Furiosa because I
mhm,
will watch Furiosa a lot too because that's such a compelling story still. Because I love Furiosa. Furiosa is without a doubt one of the greatest characters of the 21st century. When it comes to women, she might be the best, one of my favorite characters. And,
mhm.
I liken it to Sarah Connor, Ripley, Emily Blunt in Edge of Tomorrow. These characters where it's Zach says it better than me, where it's like they're almost these like extremely strong women that are like hiding their real true feelings, and they're just
Mhm.
really badass. MVP for this movie, I already
Gastown.
said it. Margaret Sixel edited the crap out of this movie.
Mhm. Yeah, I think she had 470 hours, I think.
Yeah, 400 hours of
It
footage.
took her 3 months just to go through the footage, not even like start editing, just to look at it. It took her 3 months.
And I think it was 1 or 2 years that Junkie XL worked on this project too. So it's
Mhm.
like he's working with Six Soul and George to kind of just put this together. Put this together. Johnny Seal, man, the man was like in his 70s, 80s. I think he did this Thousand Year Longing, and he's retired.
Yeah.
DP, his
I would have
cinematographer.
retired. I would have retired after this. Like, I'm
What a
getting
way to
out.
go out. There's so much detail thematically to go into. I'm not even going to go into it. Like, just enjoy the ride of this genius work
Mhm.
right here. And it's the details. Look at his neck, the left side of his neck. You see the bumps. He's got the
Yeah.
bumps that Nux has too.
They're not going to Gastown.
The geography of this. I remember seeing Furious 7 before this, and the geography was just something else in the sense that
Mhm.
like y'all do not know how to do action compared to the genius of George Miller.
Oh yeah. You watch like
Because it's
other
very
movies now, and you're just like, damn.
and it's
I
the
mean,
problem
John
is
Wick
is
is
that
still
they're
holds
doing
up.
second unit work, and no,
Mhm.
there's so many great second unit directors like Chad Stahelski came from that. Darren Prescott, he's another great one. He did the opening chase for Baby Driver. and the opening car work for John Wick 2. Some really great
Yeah.
work in there, right? But even then, I'm like, if you can shoot action, if you can shoot all this work yourself, do it. I don't know how directors don't direct their own action. I think it's crazy. And I'd say if the studio really doesn't want you to do it, screw them. Like, then don't do the project.
Yeah, that's true. John Seal, man.
Okay, anybody, if you really do like this movie and anything else Johnny Seal has done, Roger Deakins, the Team Deakins podcast, John Seal was on there. Amazing list of one of the best guests they've ever had because he's just this cool Australian guy. He's just funny.
Yeah, I think Miller told him, he said, what I want you to do is keep like what we're supposed to be looking at in the center because I don't want the audience's eyes to go anywhere else.
So for anybody who doesn't know, Dune Part 2 just came out also. Central framing in the sense of like if you're putting your finger to the middle of the screen, the focus of your, entire movie should be in the middle. So your eyes don't have to keep readjusting. And someone was comparing Mad Max Fury Road. I was watching this last night randomly, and Transformers, the third act of Transformers, the 2007 movie, and the man is just literally moving the cursor for his computer back and forth, back and forth. It's like 1 or 2 second shot where it's like you have to readjust your eyes. Your mind is working, overtime. And with this, Miller's just like, I want you to just be able to watch this, have this sound off. You don't even know what the language is, but I want you to understand what's going on in this movie. And I still do that. I'll be watching a random movie and I'll just be like, oh, can I figure out the tension? Like I turned on a Civil War last night and something happens in the first 5 minutes, something crazy. And I randomly skipped ahead and I saw that. I was like, oh, something's about to happen. Why did I skip ahead? Let me go back. Let me actually watch this movie. So I watched the whole movie. Because it's like, it's like a great director can do that. It was in like 2 seconds. You're going to see, all I saw was a woman get up with a backpack in Civil War. Literally, that's all I saw. I was like, whoa, something's about to happen.
Yeah.
And there's no context of like there being a riot or something. V8. Anybody who can't see me, no one can see me, but I am testifying to the V8.
He's doing it. I think he brought up in a recent interview, I think it was a Letterbox, about that same framing thing. Because he told the person, he's like, you take your thumb and put it right in the middle, like put it out in front of you, and you focus on your thumb. Everything else around you is going to be completely out of focus, no matter what you do. And that's like what he tries to shoot when he's shooting these movies, because he doesn't want anything else. He wants your eye where you're supposed to be looking, which is at your thumb.
And for anybody who doesn't know, like when it comes to even focuses for your cameras, like literally your lens is supposed to be the focus and like that you're doing like shooting a shot with, right? That your lens choice, your focus choice is going to give you, essentially the perspective of what you're supposed to be looking at. And the best movie that I can say that for is the Batman. The Batman is one of the most subjectively shot movies, to where I think I've said it before, where like there's a funeral scene in the Batman and they've got 200, 300 extras, but you don't see any of them because it is focused in on Bruce's like perspective of him looking at this kid who's going through the same trauma he did as a kid. And that's what, and he's looking at like Zoe Kravitz, Selena Kyle and whatever, but still ballsy stuff. And great directors do that. And this is very much, I still remember, I think it was Edgar Wright or Ryan Johnson. Someone said it back in like 2015. They're like, oh, yeah, George Miller just took us to school. And he's 100% right. Euphoria right here, a legend.
Yeah.
You also know his wife. She's in this movie, Riley Keough.
Fully functioning guitar that actually shoots flames. So you guys know.
The shot that just happened of
100 pounds or something.
George Miller said that's one of his favorite shots to watch from the movie, where it's like, the camera comes around and you see the doof and the, thing, the wire goes off. It's perfect. He looked at me. He looked at me.
This is like when a celebrity likes my tweet.
They liked it. The problem with me is I really know there's so much, there's sparse dialogue in this movie. So like, I know all the dialogue of the movie.
Nicholas Hoult is so good.
We should talk about Nicholas Hoult. What a legend in this movie.
So good.
And it's like this is supposed to be like essentially like fifth tier. Like he's below, like he's like really down the whatever the list of important characters, right? Like you got Morton
And he's
Joe, you
worked
got
with
the Five Wives, you got everybody above him. But he
he's worked
comes
with
out, and I love him. I mean, like he really, I mean, obviously the narrative 100% hits for him by the end, but every single step of the way, he's really pushing 100%. And I didn't realize until I was shooting the last pod for this. I was like, oh wait, he's bald again for playing Lex Luthor.
Hell yeah.
If anybody
He's
doesn't
worked
know,
with
he was chasing behind. He wanted to play the Batman. He wanted that role. He almost got it, but Pattinson got that. So he's been going for that sort of role. I'm happy that he's going to be playing Lex. Here we go.
he's worked
Oh
with
man, these shots in this movie.
he's worked with both Furiosas too. He's on obviously in
That's
this,
true.
and
The
he's on with
menu
Anya
shot in
and the menu.
Savannah.
Because I saw he posted something. I think he posted the poster for Furiosa and was like, "Go watch this." Essentially,
Yeah, I was doing a bad
seems like a
impression of
nice
these
guy.
guys. I was like, I was like, they're the Tusken Raiders of this universe. That's all you
Yeah,
need to know.
which is funny because the Tusken Raider, they like the when they go with their like guns, that was an
Yeah.
edit because they just ran like this. So like he edited it so it would go back and forth. So like it was just an edit
Oh,
that he replayed it with that sound. So it's like originally he just had
interesting.
him raise his arm. So like that now they do that all the time, and you're like that was funny because that was just an edit that he chose to do. Like
Bro.
he never have them do that in the
Is it
beginning.
him or was it Marshall Lucas? For anybody who doesn't know,
I don't
Marshall
know.
Lucas is the one who put that first movie together for
Probably
Star
her.
Wars.
Because if you and now you go back and watch it, you can see it like
I w-
stop and then reverse and go again, and you're like,
yeah.
oh, I can see it. You can see it in the edit.
Now I gotta pay attention to that. I was talking about how this movie was shot digital, but just because of the sheer amount of dust and everything, and it just looks like it's film in the best way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep saying this where it's like I love the look of film, and at this point I'm just like it's the film look, but digital can do it. After I saw what's that movie? The Holdovers. That blew my mind. I was like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
this is actually not a shot on film. Jeez. Look at the
Film
genius work
effect.
of, this is editing. This is the camera team. This is, stunt team, effects team, makeup team. Every single team is 100%. Like
Yeah, I think you said over.
no one was skimping, on this movie.
Yeah, I think you said over 80% of it was practical. Like a lot of the
And I
stunts.
think there's like that little explosion right there, fantastic. And it's like every little bit that they did, it makes sense. And I understand people's issues with Furiosa, but I very much see Furiosa being the comparison of like you're watching the Matrix, 1 through 3 compared to watching Matrix 4, like Revolutions. Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're 100% there for the action, then you're kind of missing the point of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And the point of Furiosa very much is action, right? But I mean, for Mad Max Fury Road.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, at this point, y'all should. I call it Fury Road because it's not Mad. This is not Mad Max. Isn't the story? This is
Yeah,
Furiosa's story. This is Furiosa Fury Road, right?
basically. Yeah, she's not even Furiosa is the main character in both Furiosa and Fury Road. Max is just there.
Yeah.
Like in this one.
And literally, okay, spoilers for anybody listening. If you want to beat for like 5 seconds, he's literally in Furiosa 2, and he does nothing to help her.
Yeah. Yeah, you just looking at her.
He's just like, oh, girl with no arm. I don't need that.
I was waiting for it and I saw it. I was like, oh, Max. I whispered Max.
That was his stunt double from
Yeah,
from this one.
I highly doubt. I was like, Tom Hardy's not gonna come back for that 1 second shot.
Oh, here we go. Mortsov. The
Yeah,
cutest part in Furiosa was the little one who had,
Oh yeah.
he's testing out his witness me.
This is when I think when I first watched it, I was like, wait, what? And I was like, what is he really? And like that, I was like, oh shit.
And every single part of this, that wide shout out to Guy Norris. Guy Norris. He's the He's the one who did all the action work on this movie, and he
Mhm.
came back for the new one. I will talk about him towards the end of the movie when we get to the end of this because he actually did a stunt in this movie, and it's the hardest stunt of the movie because it's the one where someone could have died. And or okay, I'll keep it in the bag because remind me when the pole vaulting comes up later. There's a good story about that too. And it's like they pushed for safety every single time they had to. Like no one got like majorly injured on this movie. One person came close though. I'm going to talk about him later. Oh, here we go. Hydraulics.
To look over.
One of my favorite shots is coming up in a second.
So like that technique, what he just did right there, how
Speed
it went like
ramping.
slow and so he essentially slows the frame rate down, and then what they'll do is they'll speed it back up to 24. So it's at 24, but he slows it down so it gets choppy, and then if you speed it up really quickly, it looks like it's just going super fast as opposed to just going right back to 24 frames. It's a really like interesting technique that it's like it makes it looks
it's
like,
awesome.
Awesome. Like this is probably one of the best edited movies I've ever seen.
You heard my hot take. I really think this is like one of the best edited movies of all time. I think this is the most deserved win of an Oscar for editing. Here we go. This shot right here where when the guy drops on the ground. Here, this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
Beauty. That's just poetry in motion right there. It's like it's pure chaos, but it's like curated chaos. That's what movies kind of have to be, and this is full of it. And did y'all forget that y'all can have storms in the desert?
Oh,
Ghost Protocol,
coming, by the way.
Furiosa.
There's a storm coming, by the way. After all of that,
and there's so much CGI already in how much we've watched. And people, yes, I understand. Like I said, yet again, I understand their trepidations and issues with it in Furiosa. I got an issue with it one bit. They're making a different movie. They're trying to be safe. They're making it in Africa. I mean, excuse me, in Australia. Like, I'm not expecting them to do the same thing again. Not that they didn't. They did a lot of practical work on the movie. It's just, yeah, they use CG.
Yeah, I think people are always going to complain about CGI. There's never going to be that was perfect. Like even in this, I'm sure some people complained.
Oh, there's so much noticeable CGI in this movie, and whatever.
Like also, look at the movie you're watching. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? Like,
also, I think this movie is like 90% or 95% ADR. There's certain points where I'm like, that's not Tom, or that's not what's his name? Yeah, Tom Hardy.
I think all of his dialogue is ADR. Tom Hardy's.
Zoe Kravitz described the relationship that Tom and Charlize had on this movie as being like you're at summer camp together. There's just that one kid you do not get along with for some unknown reason, and that's just the tension they had the entire time. And they become amicable, afterwards, and it's nothing crazy, but they talk about it in this movie, and it's also stemming from their frustration with not knowing what they're doing. You know.
I think they said the back half of filming, like Tom got a little better. Like they got along a lot better. Yeah. I think when they first started, he just like didn't understand what was going on at all. And I could see as an actor, like you're just like, this is dumb. Like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Like, this is going to be so bad. And
we talked about it. You could replace him in this movie, can't you? Honestly,
oh, yeah.
My replacement, like if they made it today, I said John Bernthal. He's got that like animalistic quality that Tom does. But back then, I think Armie Hammer, Jeremy Renner, a couple of names that were very much in the pot for this role. But I think Tom is the best one out of all of them, though, in my opinion. Oh, man.
Yeah, because then he went to, when they were at Cannes, when they screened the final, he was just like, he turned to George Miller and was like, I'm sorry.
George, yep.
Like, you were right. That was incredible.
Because I think the first time you watch this movie, at least for me, it's like, I can't believe that anybody can watch this and just be like, I'm like,
Yeah.
literally, no, literally in cinema. Have you ever seen anything else like this? I think we've both seen
No.
2000 plus movies, and I
Oh
have
yeah.
never seen even Mad Max 1, 2, and 3. There's not another movie like this.
hmm This is to me. I don't know. It's probably not a hot take, but to me, this is the greatest action movie ever made. If you have directors
Same.
coming out, if you have directors, I think when this screened out, was it South by? Possibly. I think Robert Rodriguez stood up and was like, "What the fuck? Like, are you fucking serious? Like, you goddamn made that?" Like, and then Steven
And
Soderbergh being like, "I don't know how they're still not making that movie." Like, you're like, this dude just operating on another
the
level.
book,
Like,
even Bong Joon-ho for his Sight and Sound list, where it's like everybody has this pretentious list of like 5 to 10 movies that they really love that everybody should
mhm.
watch. But Bong Joon-ho, my man, he has Mad Max Fury Road on there.
Dude, I would
And it's
too.
like
I
I
mean,
think there's a
I feel like
select
any
few
director that
movies.
watched this, any director that would watch this would be like, "Holy shit! I wouldn't even know where to begin with this." Like,
And for me, I think every time I watch this, I'm just studying. That's what it is. It's just I'm learning something every single time.
I think
And
if
it's
you
like this man is just genius. Like this is just crazy.
if you want to be like a filmmaker, 100% watch this movie just for every aspect and especially the
For
editing.
two movies it's Jaws and this. Those are the first two
Mm.
movies I'd recommend to anybody to watch.
Because I
Because
think
the
she
feverish
said,
energy of them is just that's what you want in your movie. If you're making movies,
Mhm.
as Tarantino says, this is his favorite movie. It's not my
Mhm.
favorite film, guys. It's my favorite. It's one of the best movies ever made. That's my Tarantino impression minus feet.
This is my Billy Walsh from Entourage impression. You know, I hate the word movie. I don't make movies, I make films.
Oh, here we go. Here we go, y'all. The editing right here. Here we go. Yet again, every single time they can punch up a movie, punch up a shot. We get a similar shot in Furiosa at Bullet Town. Very similar to this shot. I prefer this shot though.
Yeah, she even asked,
Because
she was
I
like,
think it's they
why do you
take
want,
even more time with this.
Mhm. Yeah, she was like, why do you
And
want
there's
me to edit this? And he said, because if a guy edits it, it's every other action movie.
and it very much was.
Right.
He was like, yeah, it's like I know my wife's not gonna sit around. Like she does not like like slow pacing.
Mhm.
And I think there's a thing there also that I was talking to Martin's girlfriend like when we had met, and she was like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't really like action movies, but I like speed." I was like, "Oh, it's because of the pacing, right?" She's like, "Yeah, like the
Mhm.
story is going," and it's like women know better than us, okay? Like
Yeah,
that's
they
just
do.
what it is. But like this right here, the cut to the paint, and it's just like you feel the sound design of like
Mhm.
obviously like with before he takes out the hook, every little single piece is like you know exactly what the story is without any dialogue. And I think this is CG smoke the entire time. Like there's a lot of CG like placement of like vehicles in the background and things
Mhm.
like that. And it's frankly
Probably.
seamless. And
Yeah.
yet again, spoilers for Furiosa, the third act. I hate that they put it in the trailers. Do you have it in you to make it? You know what else? Like, why'd y'all put
Epic.
it in
Yeah.
the trailers? But like that entire scene is, there's CG, but it looks
Mhm.
fantastic. I loved it because it's like his entire intention is that we're in this wide, hellscape of like sand, but like
Yeah.
the intimacy is these two characters. We have gone this entire movie just to these characters.
Mhm.
Characters. If you talk about War for the Planet of the Apes, Gladiator, epic scopes, but when it comes to the end, right? When it comes to the person who killed your family in all three of those movies, right? It gets very real and it gets very intimate, right? And obviously by the end, when Caesar gets to Woody Harrelson's character and he just turns around and is like, he can't
Yeah.
speak. Jeez. This right here, the banging of the and it transitions right into the score, right?
Mhm.
And this
Perfect.
shot right here,
Down to the
he
hand.
sets every single piece of geography perfectly. Where it's like, okay, he's coming from this way. Okay, then we're gonna come through. They don't know that they're coming. The women don't know they're there, and we're gonna
Mhm.
be unveiled to the wives. we're gonna see them for the first time, and he's also gonna see the wives for the first time. He's gonna be caught off guard. Everyone's caught off guard in this scene, and that's why it's fantastic. All of our protagonists meet. They're all not wanting to get along,
Yeah.
and the
Well, I love
tension
what they
is
do.
fantastic.
I love what they do right there. It looks like the image like flickers, like almost like it's a mirage. Like he's seeing
Mirage,
just
yes,
like
yes,
a bunch of
yes.
women, like, and there's like the
No, but
pool of water being like, wait, like, am I seeing
that's
this?
just classic cinema, man.
Yeah.
Someone, I think it was Reese or someone, they asked George Miller, finally, they're like, oh, is it from like this old like noir movie or something that and Herod's name comes from? And I'm like, yeah, like no one said that. I was like, come on, y'all. And I love the name. I love all their names.
Rattle them off, quick, go.
Okay, so we got the Dag, Splendid, and Herod. That I'm missing two names in my head right now. My favorite's the Dag. Abby Miller, that's her name.
I think it's Abby Lee Miller or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Rosie. Talk about the difference in performance from this and Transformers Dark of the Moon. Come on.
Jason Statham's wife.
And the actress from Anyone But You that ends up playing yet again Furiosa. She ends up playing Furiosa's mother. She's great in Anyone But You. Has this like amazing charisma just on screen. It's just like, okay, I understand what's going on. This is awesome.
Yeah.
But when she plays Furiosa's mother, she becomes one of the best characters of, the 21st century for women. Come on. So, fun fact,
Kia, Zoe Kravitz.
the wife, Courtney Eaton's character, Courtney Eaton was like 15 or 16 when she shot this. She looks so much older in this, though.
She's in
Does she not?
Yellow Jackets. She's in Yellow Jackets right now.
Yeah. And the problem is that, or it's not a problem. I think she looks a little older. I put
now that you pointed
Margaret
out, I
Qualley
can
in that
tell.
role.
Yeah, now that you pointed out, I can tell she looks like she's like 15. But
it's
until you pointed it out, I wouldn't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
She looked older. Yeah.
That's the only flaw in this movie that I can find. But it's like, okay, it's like you just understand that like this, how despicable Immortan Joe is. And I talk about a few things on the pod about like little details, and they very much do explore them in Furiosa. Yes, here we go. So this scene right here, Pat, the stunt double for Furiosa, they were living in Namibia at this time, shooting this movie in this little remote place. She had snails for dinner and got food poisoning. So she would shoot this scene, vomit all night, and then take pills or something to like make sure she doesn't vomit during the day. She'd shoot this scene and just keep doing that over and over. And when they were done with this, she had to go to the hospital for dehydration.
God. Yeah, because if you're puking all night, you're gonna get dehydrated.
Yeah, and I think it's Tom Hardy's stunt double and Furiosa's stunt double. They ended up getting married. I think they're divorced at this point, but very much it was a thing where it's like they're, hot boxed in like this is a production in the middle of nowhere,
and rolling on top of each other.
Yeah, and actually, Riley Keough, one of the wives, she ends up marrying Doofman. But that was, like I said, when they went back to shoot the Citadel stuff, that's when they actually met.
Those that don't know, Riley Keough is Elvis Presley's granddaughter.
Yeah, and she's actually quite talented. I think the first time it was this, and then like It Comes at Night.
Yeah. I mean, she's a better actor than her grandfather. Let's put it that way. Elvis was not a very good actor. He just came into the movie and sang the songs.
That whip of the chain, every single time I see it, it's just, I don't know what it is about it. It's always fantastic.
What I love about this is like the way Tom Hardy's acting, because he has like the chain and the mask. It's almost like he's like an animal.
Oh no, it's very much like
trying
he's
to like
very much a
like
rabid dog in this movie.
Chain,
yeah, and it's like by the time he gets it off and like he starts trying to help Furiosa essentially get her, I guess, retribution or something, in a sense of like she's redeeming herself, that redemption that she gets. He helps her get it. He doesn't really get much, but that's when he actually becomes a human again, because it's like the wasteland just eats you up. You become inhuman in this world, and that's George Miller's entire point with this movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of
that ADR right there was not Tom Hardy.
Oh yeah,
don't tell me that was hard.
I think
that
all of his dialogue is literally ADR.
And I say it as a joke because like I see that is like, it's not a problem for me. I think it's awesome. I think it's hilarious.
That's great. We got Tom Hardy and Knives Out 3 coming. We have a new Tom Hardy voice. Like, we're ready to go.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
He's rumored. He's rumored to be. It hasn't been confirmed.
I would love that. No, but think about it. I'm thinking more Inception, the character he played in Inception. Think about that. That role, that sort of candor, like that sort of vibe. That would be very much a fantastic thing to have.
And you saw Civil War.
Andrew Scott.
Kaylee Spaney has signed on for Knives Out.
So I've been a fan of Kaylee Spaney
Josh O'Connor.
Since when probably before Devs. Like, I've been a fan because she's been a lot of Alex Garland work. Anybody who hasn't seen it, Devs on Hulu FX, check it out.
FX Networks.
Yep. The dag right there. I love this right here. When she gives the little like and when she says Slanger is dick, y'all. It's hilarious when she says it. Schlanger.
I think because of the tension on the set, like between Tom Hardy and Charlize, and Tom with like George Miller, I think a lot of the actresses said that Nicholas Hoult was like the guy you wanted to go talk to because he was just super chill. Like, he was just friends with everybody. Like, he was the guy that was like the comedic relief of that tension on the set. That's why everybody loves Nicholas Hoult. We see photos of people with Nicholas Hoult, they love him.
And like Zoe Kravitz, we haven't talked about yet.
Zoe Kravitz. She's directing a movie this year. Should have kept
Pussy Island.
Same Pussy Island. It's called Blink Twice now or something.
Yeah. Pussy Island it's still Pussy Island. I already knew they're going to change the name. You know what name I'm surprised they didn't change? The name for Amy Adams' new movie with Marielle Heller, Dog Bitch. Y'all really could have put out a movie called Dog Bitch in theaters?
I mean, if it's a book, yes, I guess.
I mean, they don't care if it's a book.
We need Amy Adams to get back on track.
I know. I've been begging. But like, I think that's a good role for her. She's gonna have a good time with that. Anybody, if y'all haven't seen Sharp Objects, go watch that. HBO, fantastic. Her best work.
And he gives like Riley Keough the hair color. It's the same like hair color as Chris Hemsworth's in Furiosa. That type of red.
Interesting. Actually, what if she's dyeing her hair?
I don't want to talk so much about Furiosa, but
yeah,
I love that. I feel like we should. I mean, at this point, I'll put a disclaimer in the front.
40 minutes.
I'll put a disclaimer in the front that we talk about Furiosa a lot, but the transition in Furiosa when they shoot that red smoke and then he comes in with the red cape then and the red hair, like, amazing.
You know what's so funny? I was watching that. I was like, there's certain points during the movie. I was just like, Margaret, no, you did not. How did you shoot Fury Road and then you're shooting this movie? You're editing this one, and it's still amazing. It is so different. That's obvious CG behind him. Not obvious, but like, it has to be CG.
Though. But I think looks fantastic. That type of CG works in this type of world because it's not a world that anyone would know. So it'd be like, I mean, you could do anything with this. It's gonna look weird. It's gonna look red's gonna stand out. Every other color is gonna be completely muted, but red will stand out.
These shots, man.
You can tell that's not Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah, from the head.
Yeah.
But I've seen this movie 20 plus times at this point, man. This is one of the few movies after like 2014, 15 that I've seen that many times with reason. Like, this is just amazing stuff.
I'll say I'm a person that doesn't rewatch movies from like, say, 2010 or 11 and on that much.
Same.
This one, like, I'm a big like 2000s and back all the way back to like 30s and 40s, but I don't know, sometimes movies just movies in the 2011 and on, just for me, they hit, but I don't find myself rewatching them that much. This one though, 100%.
But that's a testament of like great cinema. And it's like
Mm,
I know certain people are like, I understand the feeling of like, yeah, there's cinema that where it's like, yeah, you watch it once and you kind of really don't want to watch it
yeah.
again, but it's still
Mhm,
great. But I think the best cinema for me will always be the movies that I can go back and watch, and like it's almost comforting to watch these
mhm.
stories again. And there should be a value within that, but I mean, I put it in there for myself. There's certain movies where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna rewatch this till for the years to
Yeah.
come, and I think that means that like a movie has a timeless quality about it, right? And you
Mhm.
can't really say that for a lot of movies.
And this
Like
didn't like
what's out in
this
theaters right now?
well, Furiosa, as we have been talking.
Furiosa, go see it IMAX if you can. I mean,
um,
fantastic,
the
amazing
Garfield, the
sound.
Garfield movie.
That's not going to age well.
No, but there are some people that's like, especially a movie like this, like I think on a second watch, if someone didn't like, it's not they didn't care
Yeah,
for it, they're just like, I
yeah,
don't get
yeah,
it. But then they watch it
yeah.
a second time because I've had people they watched it a second time and they were like, wait, this is because it's a lot to take in immediately. Like you're just
Zach was like,
going.
yeah, when I saw it in theater, like he was like, yeah, it's like it was a lot of like, empty calories for him. For me, I was in. I'm telling you, the
Yeah.
first time I saw this movie, I knew it was amazing, instant
Hmm.
classic movie for me. Like I knew that for me at least because I was waiting 3 years to watch the movie, right?
Yeah. I mean, even though this didn't, people don't remember like, because Furiosa is currently underperforming at the box office. This movie also didn't do that well in the box office because
Nope, it
people
didn't.
they don't get it. It's like I don't understand what this is, and like
And I
I
was
mean,
no,
it
no, I
did
really
at the
thought I was
Academy
like,
Awards. It was awarded at the Academy Awards a lot, and rightfully
I thought I
so.
was like
And it should have
500
won
million.
Best
This movie
Picture.
should be making 500 mil. And then when it got to the Oscars, I was like, Mad Max or bust. I think Spotlight was a great best picture choice just for the reasons of what that movie is. I think Big Short is one of my favorite other movies from that year. But besides that, it
I
is this
think
movie.
Spotlight is one of those wins where it's like a Crash, a Green Book, a Coda, where
I don't
the
know
everyone
about that.
because no, it's because how they yeah, but that's not on the same par as them. I'm saying, um, it's everyone would put Spotlight at like a 3, like a
Three,
majority of people
yeah.
put Spotlight 3, and like Mad Max and I don't know what else other maybe it was The Big Short. I don't think so. What other movie was that year?
The Revenant.
Yeah, maybe. And they cancel they cancel each other out essentially, and that's when that Coda wins Best Picture. Like, if you look at it like Coda, fine movie, Best Picture of the year. Like, I mean, it's like Spotlight, great movie, but is it the best picture of the year after watching
It's
this? To
not.
me, no.
No, no.
Like, no,
But
it's
it's like,
that's where
yeah,
movies like
for
that
like
win.
the
Like,
culture that like y'all should know that these priests have been touching these kids for a long time in that sense.
yeah,
And the actual journalism they did to put the movie together and tell that story. I'm a big journalism guy. There's a reason why I love Civil War so much, but like,
mhm,
but I don't know. I'm a sucker for that stuff. But
yeah.
even then, even more of a sucker for like action movies. And this is an action movie, but I think this is the deepest thematic action movie that's ever been made. And Zach had me put this on paper essentially on the pod that this is a post-apocalyptic Western feminist action movie. And we
You're
have
not
never had
wrong.
another one.
You're not wrong.
Technically, Furiosa kind of is, isn't it? It's a
Yeah, I
Western,
guess,
it's
yeah.
a revenge movie.
But I would consider these like that's what I'm saying. I consider this the epilogue to Furiosa
Yeah.
because again, spoiler, Furiosa. The end credits of Furiosa show Fury Road clips. So
Yeah.
yeah, now that you pointed out, she looks like she's 15 years old. I cannot see it
Yeah.
now.
Oh, look, this is CG, but it doesn't matter. I think the use of when it comes to CG and
Mhm,
good CGI, this movie, I think honestly for me, Furiosa, it's good CGI because it's been employed correctly.
mhm.
Fincher employs it immaculately, but it's like noticeable CGI doesn't mean it's bad CGI in my book.
Oh yeah, no, Because again, if he's trying to get you to look at them, like he doesn't want you like on a first watch, you're probably not looking in the background, being like you're looking at them because you're like now you're so locked in after an entire car chase. You're about to go on another one. You don't give a shit if it's a green screen in the back. Like
And I
I
think
don't
it's
care, man.
like, I think it's also a problem of like, are you actually fully paying attention to the narrative, or are you trying to find flaws? And I think it's
Flaws,
almost the
yeah.
thing of like, of your like approach to life. Are you trying to find good things within stuff,
Oh
or are
yeah.
you trying to find bad things?
And people are probably gonna would yell at me for this take, but I think most people, especially a lot of critics now, go into movies looking for a flaw, being
Flaw,
like, "This isn't going to
100%.
work. Like this
No,
isn't
no,
going
I
to
feel
work.
like
And
they keep
here's
their little
why."
notepads when watching movies to
Yeah.
write out bad things,
hmm
not good things.
My
And
notepad would be like, "This is awesome," and that's all it says.
see, I think for me, it might be a thing where it's like if I had a notepad anytime I'd watch a movie, it might be to write down something to like maybe I'd forget it because it's awesome and there's so much
Mhm,
awesomeness going on. Besides that, I think the great test of a movie is that after you watch it, you should remember it. If you don't remember it, I
yeah.
don't think it's a good movie.
Mhm,
That, in my opinion, I understand if you're tired or something, but besides that, if you can't remember the story of a movie, then the movie has inherently failed. And I think that's also has to do with like, you know, in a world of narrative film, which is what I live within. Some people don't, and that's on them. But I love narrative film. That's always what I'm going to watch for the
mhm.
most part.
Because I feel like if I was being a critic reviewing, especially this, because there's obviously movies you're like, I don't like whatever, I'm just gonna write a review. I feel like I would get to this point and be like, I need to watch this again before I have an actual understanding of what I'm about to write. And I would go
That's
back and
my
rewatch
problem.
it immediately.
I don't understand. And I say this for anybody listening. Like, how do y'all watch a movie and then within 2 minutes or something like that,
Have
just
an entire review.
intellectualize and just like think about like, oh, this is what this movie is and this and that. And I'm just like, I don't need you to tell me a plot or layout of like, oh, this
Mhm.
movie is set in this time and this is what happens. No one needs to know that. Okay.
Or like
Like
watching
Roger
like
Ebert did
5.
that, and then he would actually
Yeah,
give you good takes. Like you're not
yeah,
Roger Ebert. Okay. So don't
yeah,
don't give me that.
yeah. Or like watching 5 new movies at Cannes and writing reviews on them. Like, I don't think I could do that, man. Like,
I
I've
I don't
watched
know how
5 new
people
movies in a
watch.
day, but
Yeah.
I'm not gonna watch like 5 epics I've never seen before in one day, probably, because that's just too much energy being sucked in, like to me.
Yep. I think
Like,
if
I gotta
I,
throw a super bad in the middle of that 5 movie watching.
depending on my work situation, if I get the press pass for the local like the Savannah Film Festival, I will be going this year like a lot more. And if
Mhm.
I do that, I'm very much, I'm like, am I really gonna watch a lot of stuff? I think what's gonna happen is like I'm gonna go to a lot of things where it's like they're having conversations, and then I'll
Yeah.
see like a solid like a good amount of like maybe 2 movies or 3 movies a day max.
Mhm.
And even then I'm gonna be like chugging a Red Bull or something like
Tiring,
that
man.
because I don't know how
It's
people do it. I had a
tiring.
friend when we went to go see the bike riders. I was in that line by myself for like an hour because my buddies got out of Boy and the Heron and then ran, got dinner, and then came. And I'm just like, guys, this is too much. I don't know how y'all doing this. And then we got out of bike
Tiring.
riders and we walked the wrong way, turned around, like walked to the end of the curb, the block, talk for 10 minutes, walked back, and literally out the door, Jeff Nichols right in front of our faces. I was just like, oh my God. I,
This is my favorite
I should,
song. Brothers in Arms. This is my favorite
yeah.
song.
The lead writer on this of the Rock Riders is actually someone who became a stunt coordinator, and he coordinated a few of the things for John Wick 4. There was 3 stunt coordinators that actually worked on John Wick 4. Whenever you do John Wick 4, obviously you have to bring me on the pod, bro.
I think we should just do the John Wick franchise. It's a little series.
I mean,
Not the Continental.
that's the Chad Stahelski director's commentary right there. He's got
Yeah.
4. You should do that for whenever Highlander comes out.
Mm.
And see, we're 52 minutes in, and he's still adding details. Still
Yep.
adding details.
Like, here comes some clans. You're like, okay, we got clans now at this point. Like, you're in the middle of the movie. I guess there's other clans. Let's go.
So, since we finally see the guys on the poles, they were taught by a Cirque du Soleil guy who came through and taught them all that stuff. Guy
Mm.
Norris's sons are actually some of the guys doing that, but they did all this. Essentially, they were not on set, but they were, in their base camps, practicing all this. and they had gone to a certain speed, I think like 30 kilometers per hour or something like that, and they ended up going 55 kilometers per hour. And what ended up happening was they were vibrating so hard from the cars on the poles that they were falling off. And one of the guys ended up falling off, hit his head. They're like, oh, fuck, here we go. And thank God he was fine. But like after that, they're like, okay, the resonance, like the shaking of the pole was too much because of the engine and them going so fast. So it's like after they figured it out what the problem was, they fixed it. They're like, okay, cool. But it's like that's why you need safety with all this stuff, right? Like, didn't someone just pass away on like working on like 911, the show, like the Fox show? It's like we don't want to see this happen. Like
I think
safety
because they had
first.
like a 14-hour day and they had to drive and I think they just fell asleep at the wheel because they were just all day
Exhausted, yeah.
Shouldn't be working that long. And usually, and those type of guys, they're not like the actors leaving immediately. They're hanging around doing stuff too. Like,
Yeah.
they're not as soon as it's over. It's
They've
like they're not.
got their job is very much blue collar to a sense.
Especially if you're a lower crew member, you're going to be there. Like if you're a PA, you're going to be there until like
15, 16 hours.
Yeah, you're going to be there all day, and you're there first thing in the morning.
And I'm like, so it blew my mind to hear this, but I think Matt Reeves is talking to the Deacons on the Team Deacons pod, and he's like, yeah, when we shot what's that vampire movie he did? You know what I'm talking about? The one that he shot with Greg Fraser. Let the right one in.
Mm-hmm.
So when they shot that, they were doing 8-hour days. They're like, okay, you can either get like 30 12-hour days or something, or you can get like 58-hour days. So they shot 50-day schedule so essentially the same cost of doing 12-hour days. And I was like, what isn't that the norm? Why don't y'all just do that in the first place? And I understand I've worked on my own stuff and it's like, it takes a minute to get everything going. I 100% understand that, but screw that. Still, if you don't know how to do your job properly, I'm talking about me wet behind the ears in high school, right? Like if y'all don't know how to do your jobs efficiently, that's on y'all, bro. Like y'all are wasting people's livelihoods. Like people got to get home to dinner with their families. That's the way I think about it. Or you can be like freaking Clint Eastwood and like you're done by lunch.
You're done by like 4 p.m. It's like I gotta go to bed, guys.
I used to follow a guy who that train movie, the guys who are like real life heroes or whatever, and they stopped some guy with a bomb or something. So I was following someone on Instagram who worked on that movie. I think he was working AC or something, like assistant camera, and 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, they're already done for the day. I was like, wait, hold up, what movie is this?
Clint's gotta take a nap later.
This is just legendary work right here. Like I feel like this is one of the few movies where it's like, if y'all don't understand the genius of this, I don't know what else to say. Like, this is some of the best work ever done. And it almost feels defeatist to just be like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. Like, don't you have something new to say besides this is awesome? But it's like, this is one of the one movies where it's like, yeah, it's just the entire movie is just oozing coolness the entire time. And I literally spent this within the past month, I've spent maybe 15, not 15. If you count that, I read an 800-page book. I probably spent multiple days of my life just thinking about Mad Max Fury Road. And at this point, I'm still not sick of it. It is a testament to good art. That's all it is.
It's wild too. The studio wanted, he was signed a contract. It was PG-13. Like, and then I think they had a PG-13 cut and George Motors cut, which is this cut, and which is the R cut. And they said this one just tested way through the roof compared to the other one. They're like, all right, it's gonna be rated R.
And honestly, they said when I said this movie was R, and I watched the movie, I was like, wait, that was R? No way, that was an R-rated movie. And that's when I'm like, y'all, because it's like we could go into a whole conversation about the MPAA, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, y'all don't know what y'all doing. After what was it like? What was the movie that came out? Was it Jaws or something else? One of those Spielberg movies.
Yeah, Jaws is rated PG.
PG, and freaking
Quint's getting eaten by a shark with blood coming out of his mouth,
and he's just ah.
Yeah, like the
shooting that's coming on Cinema Pursuit soon enough for July 4th. Shooting it tomorrow or Friday, actually.
Can never go wrong with Jaws. Speaking of like Jaws, kind of a little bit of a segue. The sound designer for he designed like the war rig after like a Moby Dick type of ship, like and like well not a ship like it's supposed to be like Moby Dick, like it's a whale. So a lot of the sound design, it's like layered of the war rig is like layered whale like calls.
Yeah, no, I can see, I can figure it out in my head just from how many times I've heard it. Is like,
and he said when like they shoot like the spears at them and like the smoke comes out, he uses like actual whale sounds of them blowing out of their blowholes, and he like just cranks them all the way up, like a whale's just being like stabbed. Because if you think about it, it's like
horrifying.
It's like
right here.
How long does the war rig last? It's like you're trying to take down a giant whale that's just Moby Dick, like it won't go down.
Yep.
Like, here's your famous gift of the the thumbs up, which is great because that famous gift of the thumbs up immediately right after it, she dies.
She just gets like, mauled to death.
Yeah. No.
And I don't see this as
maybe
this
that's
movie
why it's
never
R, because she's pregnant and dies. Maybe that's why it's R.
No, there's like little pieces, but it's never a point where it's like I would show this to my kid if I had a kid. Like my kid's gonna watch this at a young age.
You strap him down like Clockwork Orange on his eyes. Watch this.
Scratch some corneas.
She went under the wheels. It's like all his voice is like so but it's great because it's what actually works because Max is like a mythic character, so it's like
no,
it's
isn't
like
this Leone?
Like
isn't this Leone? Like I was when I watched it, last month, I was like, wait, isn't this just like Sergio Leone vibes? Except this is like, I think it's the same level of like cinema to me, where it's like. Except this is very much, 21st century crazy editing. Like this is a testament of what cinema is today. And then like, the Dollars trilogy, Once Upon a Time in America, whatever, like that's the testament of like what cinema was then from, that Italian man. This one's a Greek Australian man.
Well, because I think even George Miller is like, this is essentially just an American type of Western because American Westerns were all about survival. So essentially, like you're right, it's a Western, just an Australian Western that takes place in post-apocalyptic.
And like I said, I don't want to harp on the themes too hard, but it's like this movie is very much about, what happens. It's a cautionary tale as to it's a science in the sense of it being a science fiction movie. For me, is that like you're just trying to tell stories in a elevated way to be reflections of what's happening today. And that's what science fiction movies do, right? They, you have clones and all this crazy stuff going on. Maybe they could see the future and they're predicting crimes and this and that. I'm talking about like Blade Runner, Minority Report, but they're still talking about real things. They'll hear me say it about Philip K. Dick, but Philip K. Dick got the idea of like Blade Runner originally from hearing the SS soldiers reading from SS soldiers. They're like, oh, I can't sleep at night because these kids are yelling and crying at night that they are hungry. And that's the cadence at which they're saying it. They're complaining like, oh, I couldn't sleep because these damn kids, and it's like, wait, what? How could you say that? And it's like this movie is a reflection of that too, where it's like, if what happens when humans aren't human anymore, right? And what in this world, what are the resources? You have, you have the Citadel, where you get the food and you have, milk, you have life. Women are getting pillaged for the resources that they give themselves, right? And then you have Bullet Farm and Gastown. That's it, right? That's what the existence of this little empire is. And it's ways to kill people, ways to survive, and that's about it. There's no actual like free will in a sense, right? You've been devoid of the free will.
It's the wasteland.
And that's very much it, right? This becomes the wasteland. Why is it the wasteland? It's a very specific word choice, I think, by George Miller. And very much another story. I was telling Zach about this and Dune, cautionary tales about messiahs, false prophets. Because, like I said at the beginning of this, he says, "It is by my hand you shall rise from the ashes," or whatever, Martin just says. And very much he puts on the makeup, he puts on the plastic with all the military medals and all that, and he's putting all his makeup, this garb on for what? To like be this mythical figure. He's not really that mythical figure, right? I mean, he technically has the water of life, right? The
Yeah.
water of life is quite literal here. Over there, it's kind of super superstitious and Dune Part Two, but I see that as Frank Herbert, Denny, George Miller. These are very much people who are same little through line of like we're talking about these specific things, but these are our takes about it, and I like this take better than the other one, and I like Dune Part Two, fantastic, amazing, but I prefer this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because I don't think that the whole point of Dune is that you have an unlikable uh protagonist in this sense, right? Where it's like he's ultimately gonna fail and kill billions of people, literally
Yeah.
kill billions of people.
You're essentially just watching the rise of not a messiah in a way.
And this right here it's like a false prophet, yeah. It's like literally the devil, devil incarnate.
Yeah. You're watching
But in this,
the
it's
exact opposite of what he's claiming to be.
and this is it's the wasteland, but George is pushing hope. And this people say like, oh, there's no story to this movie. And yeah, there's story to this movie, but it's like
I mean,
this story
it was an
is
entire character arc. Like, come on, guys.
like this is a very tensely, violently, like expertly told story where it's like they go this way and then they turn around. But that like you're not, we were talking about eye protein. Like this movie is this is another one of those movies, right? Where it's like if you try to explain this, it's gonna be the blandest thing possible. But if you actually watch this and experience this, this is one of the greatest things ever made. Tell me how I made a short film in high school, right before this, 2014-ish. Like you, it ended up just being a trailer. It didn't end up being nothing.
Classic trailers.
We shot all night. I was like, guys, we'll be done by like 1, 2 a.m. We shot till like 5 a.m. And ended up being terrible. And it was just me being stupid, but whatever. That happened, right? I was like, we got to shoot this at night. And then I saw a friend, Adobe Premiere was brand new and they were like doing color corrections. I was like, and they're asking me like to, look at the night, like see if it looks real enough. I'm like, yeah, that looks real enough. I guess it's like 6 o'clock, like 6 p.m. It's about to get dark. Like, okay, that'll work. But then this comes out, and every single time I see this, this is the coolest work of like, CG mix with also color correction and whatever they did for this to shoot the night sequences continued within Furiosa. It's just fantastic. It's amazing. It's like y'all did day for night like this.
Yeah.
And then you look at what they did on Nope with the IMAX camera and the Alexa 65 and the infrared and this and that. It's like great artists are going to find a way to use the tools they have to make great style. And anybody, if y'all haven't seen Nope, if y'all go watch those scenes, you'll be like, this actually looks like night. They've perfected how to shoot nights in that movie, but it's technically not night.
Essentially just you're going to oversaturate the color, but you're going to crank up the exposure. So like it's going to let so much light in, and you can, I mean, you really look at it and tell you can, like, now that you know it's shot during the day, you can be like, oh, I can tell that this is shot during the day.
I think he said,
now that it pointed it out,
I think he said 10 stops or 10 somethings over. That's what John Seal said for this one to make it really look like night.
Like the F stops over. Yeah.
F stops. Yeah. And I think whatever the bullet guy, I think he passed away, and Morton Joe passed away. That's why they were recast. That's why whatever the stingy guy over here, he's not the bullet guy, Gastown guy. That's why he's actually in, he's got a little bit of a role in Furiosa. I love directors when they actually try to like use their characters, like use those same actors again. And this was one thing where it's like, I'm telling the same sort of story. So like, I might as well bring back these people I've, forged into existence with these characters, right? Like let them come play a little bit more, but I actually have a reason for them to be there. I had a baby brother. And I think there's a thing to be. I get lost within it sometimes where I'm like, you look at the eyes of Morton Joe, and you see this despair within him. And it's like even this devil of a character is just trying to have kids, and like he's trying to find like a viable male progeny. And I said it before. I was like, I'd be mortified to know what he does with women. Like if he has a daughter. But
And
like
then
you
you
see the
see it
humanity
in
within him, and
Furiosa.
you see in the same moment of like he's a terrible, he's not even a human.
And
I love this right
you
here.
get
This
more
is
of that.
hilarious. Just probing. When he
Just
gets
probing.
shot and he goes blind, I'm laughing every single time, man.
Just probing. I love that little gag where he's like, he looks like, wait, no one's in the
Yeah.
I think Rosie, because Tom Hardy's also playing. It's kind of like cartoonish in a way. Like he's really over the top, but it works because I think it was Rosie Huntington Whiteley said because sometimes their dresses were so loose, like they would basically
Yeah.
come out of the dresses. They would come out of their dresses, and Tom
Yeah.
Hardy wouldn't be like, hey. She said that he would just give this like cartoonish look, like a Max being like telling her like, "You're I can see
Yeah.
your breasts right now. Like, can you?" like, I love this little scene that he does here because after all of this action, it's when Tom Hardy goes down there. I don't know if
No,
it's
I
coming up
love
right
this right here. This right here, where he's like, he actually
now. When
has
he's
the humility to give her the gun.
it's when
And then
he I don't think it's this scene. It's when he like goes down
yeah,
and then
yeah,
it's I'll talk about that when I get there. I forget my notes here.
yeah.
Don't breathe.
Around the tree thing. I
Yeah, I
love those
mean,
little
and
lines.
Nicholas Holt is like has an entire character arc in this movie.
Oh
like,
yeah. One of my favorite lines of this movie is witness me. When he says
yeah,
it at the end.
witness.
Because I think he's the only character in this movie that actually has like a it's like typically in a movie you want to have catharsis for your characters where it's like from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie they are different people because of this movie, because of what's happened. And if they haven't changed as characters, it inherently bad writing, whatever. But
I mean,
this like the most change that a character has in this movie is him. I
yeah.
think, at least.
And if you think about it, like the war rig has Max, Furiosa, the wives, and a war boy on it, taking down an entire like it's all different people. Like
Yeah. And they're carrying milk. There's
yeah.
another element behind that too, I think.
I think it's a later scene when he like goes and
Oh
but
yeah, he's about to do it. Yeah.
I love like what because after all of this action, like it's great. Like you don't even it's when we get there, I'll explain it. And it's also wild. They shot this. I'm pretty sure they shot this whole movie in sequence, which is
I
insane.
mean,
Like, obviously, you don't do that in general, but
yeah.
again, there's probably no script.
But I think when
He
it
just said
comes
I
to
have
the
storyboards.
desert, at least it
Hmm.
kind of makes sense. Besides the this, the stuff in the valley, like the rocks and stuff, besides that, it 100% makes sense.
Yeah,
Because you're kind of just, out and about. And then you really have to have the dune or whatever when you get to finally the scenes with the Vuvolini,
hmm
which is about to happen soon enough. Or I'll tell you afterwards. Never mind. I don't want to keep harping on Furiosa because that's actually kind of a sport.
I'll
It's
just
not.
I'll just put a disclaimer in the front. Be like, we talk about Furiosa a lot,
No,
so
my see, like I was thinking about the tree. I was like, my only problem with Furiosa is like first like 20 minutes. Like I know it makes no sense for pacing, but I would have just loved to have seen them just living life, in peace.
mm,
See,
yeah.
like shown a little bit more of that, but it's like there's no sauce within that, right? And I understand 100% of like Margaret and like, George of like, nah, we ain't waiting around for that. We're starting with
Mm,
the action right away.
yeah.
We're not waiting. You're talking about this?
Yeah, it's like so he goes down here, but after all of these action sequences that he shot, he doesn't show this one. And
Yeah.
all you get is him just coming back covered in blood, and you're just like, okay, I got what just happened there. Like
Yeah.
you don't even need to show it. You just hear it. Which is great because it creates to me, it creates the myth of Max.
Mythos,
Because you don't
yes.
you don't see him do all of this, but he comes back and like essentially kills all of them. He's like, all right, let's go. Like, and to
It's
them, it's
like
like a myth.
if you watch John Wick and John Wick's mythos doesn't work if you don't have Mikhail Nyquist, if he's not RIP to the GOAT, but like if he's not sitting there in the bar and be like, son, do you know who you just stole from?
Yeah.
And then he like punches his son. Do you know who you just stole from?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but your life is forfeit.
Yeah. Because at this point, to me, it's like it's also Furiosa. Like this is when she fully then trusts Max.
Oh
Because
yeah,
he could have
definitely.
easily like because she keeps looking back from they're all gonna come back and she's like, all right, well, who's coming? And again, you didn't see anything that just happened. He just comes back covered in blood and he's like, let's go. And you're like, all right, this dude's not even like it makes it seem like he's not even a real character because then obviously when we get to the end of the movie, he doesn't go up on the platform. He just in the crowd and he just leaves. He's just like Max just
So
comes
at
and
the end of
goes.
this movie, like like I said, it'll be on Cinema Pursuit too, but like at the end of this movie, they shot it to where, because they got the money from the studio, right?
Mhm.
Studio's asking for it, but so they shot a scene where he goes up, he carries uh Furiosa to like the water or whatever, and then they kind of have this intimate, scene, right?
Mhm.
Almost implying that they're gonna have this relationship. But this is the only scene they say in the book. This is the only scene that George Miller in his entire career only did one take. Bro said, I ain't using that.
I'm good. I love that you have these guys that are walking on these stilts, and then there's like that's what I love about big movies like this. Because I feel like audiences now would be like, "Well, I want to know more about these guys." Like, I don't. They just look cool, man.
No,
Like,
but that's the thing that we talked
yeah,
about. It's like you do not need
you
everything
need to know.
spelled out.
Yeah, you don't need
It's like
everything,
Star
and I
Wars.
think,
That's
yep,
my example.
audiences
It's
are
like,
trained to think like they need everything. Like, who are these people? I want to know about them now. Who are these other gangs? Where are their backstory? It's like you don't
but
need it,
that's
man. They're
why
just
they
coming.
made Solo, right? For Han
Hmm.
Solo. And you compare Han Solo's Solo to Furiosa's Furiosa. And Furiosa is an actual story, warranted, and there's all these things going on. Yes, certain things line up, but it never feels like it's, oh, guys, y'all see this? Y'all see
Yeah,
this? Easter egg, Easter egg.
yeah.
It doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's music. It feels like it's flowing, and it feels like a movie. It doesn't feel like it's
Mhm.
been made to be like, an explanation in a sense. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's an explanation, but it's a story by itself either way. Solo
Hmm.
doesn't feel like that to me.
And then, it's like, but yeah, like it's like I think he only has what 50 something lines in this, but
Yeah.
again, it's like his dialogue to me. It's like people could be like, "His why is his voice so weird?" Because again, you could see it like he's a myth of a character. Like it doesn't even seem like
Yeah.
he's a real person.
He's supposed to be, like I said, it's very much, Western, Western hero, but he's
And I
not
love
the
this
whole
little.
point is that he's not the hero.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's
I
the
love that
little
little
details.
that little detail there because it's like you think he's gonna like save this little thing because now that he's
Nah,
like starting, he's like, nah, I'm hungry. But like it's
nah, he's
great though,
like protein.
but but it's great because his character thought about it for a minute because before that he would have just been like, wow, like. But then
Yeah.
now he's thinking about it, as in like he's clearly changing like mentally as what the fuck
Because
have
the
I been
women,
doing? Yeah.
because the women are the women who are actually educated are like
Mm,
imparting, or they've got the empathy, the human, the human quality of empathy to actually try to reason with him. Is like, you don't understand what's going on. Like, we're trying to explain to you why this guy that you've been worshiping your entire life is actually
mhm.
not. who you think he is. He doesn't care about you. It's like if you jump off of 100-foot thing with two spears and you die, you're not gonna go to Valhalla. You're not
Yeah, like
going anywhere.
shits.
So this is Valkyrie, who, spoilers for the first 2 minutes of Furiosa, is her best friend as a kid, and she's in that too. But she was supposed to be Wonder Woman for George Miller. They brought her back for this, and she was gonna stick around till she was gonna go up to the Citadel, but I think it was something where she was getting married or like something with her husband or something like that. And Jordan's like, if you want to go, that's fine, but the only way that's gonna work is if we kill you off. And she's like, okay,
Mhm.
then let's do that. So that's where that came from. Or else he would have kept her around too. Wait,
That's
did I miss the line?
You missed that
I
bait.
missed that's bait. What oh
That's
this
bait.
shot right here of the of the woman on the dune with this motorcycle. Oh,
Mhm.
that's awesome. And see, that's the thing. Like I said, this is a feminist movie, and not in the sense
But
of
even
like
even that shot right there, like you have all these women about to come, and you come into the back into the war rig, and then show the women being like, these women were basically bred to be wives, which is you're like, what the fuck? And they see like, oh,
yeah,
women can be this. Like, yeah, this movie
exactly.
is
And
literally
that's the
not.
thing.
If you think this movie's about Max, like I think you need to rewatch this movie again, man. like,
And it's about the women. It's very much about the
yeah.
women. And I think when it comes to women, there is a thing of like, okay, portrayal of ages, portrayal of like different backgrounds, portrayal of different, you know, different upbringings in a sense. And it's
Hmm.
like this movie has that. And he didn't have to do this, but it's like the water flowed this way. And he's just like, okay, I've got to have a woman called Warrior Woman originally, in the script, and before she became Furiosa. And it's almost she was supposed to be a foil to Tom Hardy, where it's like, okay, she's just, a female version of Tom of Mad
Hmm.
Max. But then she grew and grew and grew, and she became this legend. And Miller invested within it. And I love these characters, like every little bit of detail of like, what them doing the thing with the hands and everything. And this feels like a real world.
Hmm.
Very simple things, but that's what I'm saying. Like, this is very much a textbook of how to make movies, how to make a big world movie. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a big CG green screen and then you're gonna
Hmm.
add in all these details and that's what people want to see. No, that's not what people want to see. We were talking about when we did National Treasure. People aren't gonna go see these movies for just, some crazy CG. And yeah,
Hmm.
Furiosa has CG, but they also have these vast places of where they've shot real
Yeah.
actual things. You gotta have a mix of it.
Doesn't bother me.
It bothers me when the story doesn't work. And if y'all
Yeah.
aren't servicing the story properly, then you're not doing anything with it, right? And it's like you could watch something like Blade Runner, where it's like the story is paper thin, but it's like everything in between that's happening is actually what you're supposed to be focusing on. Is like, are you
Hmm.
actually paying attention? And this is a movie where it's like if you can watch this movie and have your mind closed off to it and not pick up on all these details, but this man literally just puts it there and it is in your face the entire time. I will say right here, I think there's a lot of like people always talk about the drums and all this like dramatic music, actually like awesome music that Junkie did with this movie. But these moments right here with with the strings and the
Hmm.
tragedy of this movie, right? They all hit well. If one didn't work, then both don't work. And this works.
Hmm.
Goosebumps every time, man.
And this is arguably the what? It's got to be the most famous shot in the movie, Pearl in the Sand.
My favorite shot is coming up. It's not this one's fantastic. The one where
No, I'll
she's,
say no, I'm saying
yelling.
this is probably the most famous shot
Yeah, yeah.
of the yelling in the.
The next shot with the sun, that's my favorite. Because I
Mm,
think the just the composition of it is just fantastic. And when I saw the
mhm,
movie the first time, that's the shot that fascinated me more than the shot of her at the dust. And
mhm,
which is it's like three shots put together. All three of the shots consecutively are amazing, but it's like that last
mhm.
one's my favorite.
Satellite. It's Sputnik.
And that's what I think about. I'm like, he shows that detail, right? So what does that mean? What's the life of a what do you call it? A satellite in orbit. When does it come out, right? And so
I
how
don't
many
even
years
know.
has it really been since, civilization?
I don't
Which I
even
don't
know
think
what
it really has been that many generations, right?
probably, yeah. I don't think it is. Maybe like I
Five.
don't know how long is, yeah, 5 generations. I don't know how long does the satellite last? Let's look up on the fly. Let's look it up.
That's the thing. I've seen this movie how many times? I think about that every single time. I've never looked it up because I don't care. Because it's like,
Well,
I
let
don't
us
know,
see.
it just
It
adds
could
to the
be
world.
satellite's useful lifetime between 5 and 15 years, depending on the satellite. Satellites can stay in orbit for hundreds of years, but just because it's in orbit doesn't mean it's working.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it could stay hundreds of years just going around, but it's not actually functioning.
I think one of the characters from Furiosa talks about his parents and their intentions for the world and this and that. And I'm like, oh, it sounds like, the generations aren't so far removed from
Yeah.
when there was actual society.
From Furiosa, it seemed like it wasn't, because even like Chris Hemsworth's character in it, like it seemed like it
His
wasn't that
daughter.
long. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seemed like it wasn't that long.
So that I
It
think
all
there's
went
a
to shit.
very strong intention within that, right? The original movie, he used to be a cop and this and that. And so it's like, it's a new age of wasteland, right?
Hmm.
And I don't mean this just because I watched it. It's not a recency bias. I would bring this up either way. But Civil War is very much the same sort of like thing where it's like, the whole point of this is not politics. It's this movie's a warning of like,
Hmm.
if y'all really this one specifically, Mad Max is about, if you let men keep trying to, kill the world, they will and end up doing it. It's gonna
Entertain. Yeah.
happen.
Hmm.
But that movie is also kind of about that too.
Yeah. You know, I love the people that always say that women couldn't be like a president, and I'm like, it's funny you say that because historically, because I think they say like, oh, they would start a war in a second because women are too hormonal, and you're like, that's interesting you say that because all wars are. Let me check my notes here. Started by men. So
Yeah. I would really want to know, or I don't know why I'm thinking about it, but because you said that, but like I want to know what the culture is on a set compared to like a set ran by a woman, like a Greta
Mhm.
versus like a not I wouldn't say Michael Bay, but
Yeah,
like just
yeah. Michael Bay is, yeah. That's
or
it.
like a
Let's not use
Catherine
Michael Bay as an
Bigelow or
example.
just
A
and
Greta or
you
like
get what I'm saying.
a Greta or like a Chris Nolan, like that type of
Yeah.
dynamic.
And Chris is not, he ain't innocent for the portrayals of his women
Yeah,
in the castings.
exactly. So it's like it'd be interesting to see the dynamic because he doesn't generally have women in lead roles like at all. So
I, I love this detail, right? I love that. I love that. See, there's intention within this of like, it's like as soon as they leave, the wasteland starts to crawl back into his head, where it's like it's
mhm,
still there while they're around, but it's like, I love that they place her and like they made a character of her in post. That's all in post.
mhm,
And they okay, so this right here, this coloring right here is the real coloring of the desert when they shot. Because if you
mhm.
look at Jason, anybody, if you like this movie, go follow Jason Boland on Instagram. He's the guy who shot the stills for this movie and for Furiosa. All
Yeah,
these years, he's still been posting photos, and I love it. If y'all love this, check it out. But the first still
Y-
of Hardy in his garb was very
who's
much one
this?
of these scenes, wearing
Mhm,
is like that color.
yeah.
There's no orange, right? There's no orange. There's no blue here.
Mhm. Well,
I told you she's my favorite character. I
it's
thought you
interesting
weren't
because
insane anymore.
there's no, like he brings the color out because they're not they're going the opposite direction now. So when they go back towards the Citadel is when all that color comes back.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that like now that they're further away, being like, oh, we've escaped, like we're gone. But now
Yeah.
it's like, oh, when we
Yep.
go back, that all that color is gonna come back.
And the thing is that anybody can say like, oh, like you're sitting here studying it, that's why you're seeing it. Like, yeah, the whole point is that yeah, we're seeing it right now, but
That's why he did
subconsciously
it.
you will see these things. Your mind, you're smarter than you think you are. Your mind will perceive these things, these details, and great artists will put these details in there. So it's like, yeah, maybe on my 15th or 20th watch, I'll pick it up, or maybe on my second watch or my first
Yeah.
watch, who knows, right?
It's like George Miller is not sitting
And like, look at this,
in the
these
audience at
frames
the
right here, just full of women, right? Like
yeah.
Furiosa has the full might of women behind her,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
Yeah, it's like she
like,
almost like blends in with it too.
and it's
And then
beautiful.
Tom Hardy's shot opposite her, and she's in like it. She's not even looking like at the audience there. She's looking away from the audience.
Now they, yeah,
But yeah, it's like for this scene specifically, like he changes all the color. It's like like you're saying, people like you look for that. It's like I mean, George Miller is not sitting at the premiere being like, "Oh shit, I forgot to color correct this scene." like he clearly did it that way. Like, and then when you go
everything
back,
is
he's gonna bring
intentional.
all of the orange and like that blue back. He's gonna bring it all back. I don't know how people like watch this and think it's not a feminist movie. Furiosa is literally the main character of this movie. Like, look at all the women in the goddamn frame. Let's do this. That was the moment Riley Keough knew.
Yeah,
He was sleeping on. He was sleeping on.
every single little piece, man. The guy looking through the eyepiece, like
Mhm.
they're like they're so. It feels like he had so much time. He's like, we're gonna make all these props. I think it's hilarious. The detail of the nipple rings for the gas tank.
Yeah, you know that guy used to be the prime minister of like Australia. Did you know
Oh
that?
yeah. Didn't you said that recently, right? I
I
just
think I
learned about
yeah.
that. I
I
love
wanted to like
this.
stand up. I wanted to stand up in the theater because he obviously played in Furious, so he plays the same character. I wanted to stand up and be like, "Guys, you know this? That used to be the prime minister of Australia. He's touching his nipples."
Me and Zach talked about it, how like this movie this is the best. Like this was meant to be. It was like God's will that this movie was made in the 2010s, because there's some
Mhm.
shots in this where it's like they were ruthless with these little Canon DSLRs, right?
Mhm.
And they're
I think
just
they
like,
used
we're
what?
gonna,
I think they used Alexas. No, I think
yeah,
they
they
used
had they
Alexas.
had Alexas for the most part, but they all the stunt
Mhm.
shots and all that, where they
They're
like,
all Canon.
you know, like
Probably like
strapped all
five.
the
Was it like a like 5D Mark II
yeah,
probably?
something like that. But like DSLRs,
Yeah.
and there's a couple shots of John Seal just like, just like extending his arm all the way out and like just trying to get a shot with like a DSLR. And I'm just like, okay,
Yeah.
they're trying as hard as they can. Just
Mm-hmm. Use
the
every
sheer
camera
will.
possible. Courtney Eaton, man, she looks exactly the same. She does now. She does in this movie. And they filmed this
But
what
that's what I'm saying. She was
14
young
years
back
ago?
then.
14
That's
years
why
ago they
like I
probably filmed this?
recast Margaret Qualley, because she's about 15, 16, 17, but like she
Mm-hmm.
looks young. She's
Yeah.
what am I? I'm
That Quality's what?
27, 28.
She's like
Qually's about the
29,
same
I
age,
think. Like
but she
28,
still looks
29.
young.
Yeah, she could play like 21, 20 even.
That's why like back then at that age she would have been perfect for that,
Mm-hmm.
because then people would have been like, oh crap, that's a literal child right there.
Yeah.
Not that Courtney Eden isn't a child in this, but still.
It sucks that
Valkyrie, let's go.
I don't know if he's ever gonna make the Wasteland, which would be the third one.
I
I just
said
don't
it.
know.
I said it
I have hope.
already,
I have hope he
but
will, but I think this might
I
be the
don't think
last
he
one.
is. I don't think he's gonna make
If
it because
anything, I could see him
Furiosa's
making
not
it
gonna
into
do
like
well.
I could see making it into like a graphic novel or something, just to be like, this is what it was going to be.
If I was them, I would go to George and be like, okay, we'll let you make this, but it has to go on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Make it 5 parts or something like that. We'll put it as limited series. We'll win a bunch of awards,
Or
and
they'll make it like an
that'll
animated
satisfy
series
them.
or something.
And he'll be able to make it. But
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't
I
think it's
wouldn't.
ever gonna.
I don't expect him to do that because, like, I think it's disrespectful in the first place. But like,
Oh yeah. That's when I wish I was like
it's
a
like,
billionaire and be like, yo, I'll throw you 100 mil, dude. Go make it.
but see, what I would do, I'd do what they were doing. You know, like some of these people do. I'd give them enough budget to do their thing, but then be like, let me sell all the streaming rights and this and that, the international rights,
Mm,
and then I'll make my money back that way just to be sure, and then we'll go from there.
damn.
Because I think you could, I think when it comes to any single sort of like, world or story, I think no matter the budget, you can tell stories within it. If you look
Mm-hmm.
at Blade Runner, they made a few, the Lotus, they made some animated anime series and things like that. You're very much able to, get it done if you need to,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what he says after Furiosa has its box office run.
Mad Max anime, Furiosa anime.
Maybe the Wastelands in anime, maybe
I mean, whose IP is it?
his. I guess Warner Brothers probably owns the rights, but
I think they'll give it to him. It's just he has to wait
I
for it.
yeah, I think they'll let him make it. It's just not gonna be in the next probably 3 years. Will Tom Hardy come back? I think Tom Hardy would come back. Technically, I think Tom Hardy said after this he signed on for 3 more.
3?
Because I think when the studio watched it, they were like, "Holy shit!" Like the studio probably thought this would make so much money. Here you go.
And this is what I'm saying. When they were doing this, at some point, they were like, "Oh,
I love that shot right
they're
there.
going too fast," and so one of them fell off, and he almost
Yeah.
got hit by a car too.
I love this shot when he like fell down and it went like boom and it went like silent and then it looked like
It feels no, it feels like a video
anamorphic.
game.
Yeah, and like
I
it felt
think
like an anamorphic lens that just like hit him right in the head. It was great.
I think this movie and Furiosa, they feel like video game movies in the best way possible. Meaning like the world feels so curated, so thought of, so thoughtful that it feels like you're actually walking through and existing within a real world. Like this seems like it's not really a far stretch, even though it is in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like the human things are there, but it's also like experiential in that sense.
Yeah.
Which I mean, like if anybody plays video games, you understand what I'm saying. Like that vibe of like you being in that world.
Have you played the Mad Max PS4 game?
I haven't. I didn't know about it till like
I
a
have.
month
I
ago.
have it. I was like, oh yeah, I have that game. I still haven't played it yet. And I was like, I really need to dive into this.
I mean, I've
Like
got
one
a
of my
PS4 at
coworkers
my
is a
house no
big.
one uses, so that sounds like I need to buy it.
Honestly, you could probably find it on eBay for cheap. I feel like people are gonna buy it now because of it. Like
I mean, you
Furiosa.
know where I live. It shouldn't be that hard to
Yeah.
get.
Well, I think George Miller even said that. I mean, it's kind of like a cult classic now, but I think George Miller said that he wasn't like the biggest fan of the game, or he just wasn't something that he wanted. He wanted it to be better. So I think they actually might be developing a new Mad Max game, but we'll see.
I mean, he's got Kojima on his side, don't he?
He wants him. He wants him to develop it. So
I mean, guy knows worlds, doesn't he? Death
yeah,
Stranding and all that. I haven't played those, but I'm more than aware. I follow one on on Twitter for a reason. So, like, I'd be excited.
he's a big Mad Max fan and Furiosa fan. So I wouldn't be surprised if he
But I
doesn't
think
make one. Honestly,
I think great artists are going to be a fan of this, like because they
Mhm.
recognize the
The
beauty
talent.
and
That's
genius of it.
yeah.
And it's like I think this is non-pretentious. There's no pretension here, right? Where it's like, George Miller thinks he's he's hot shit, and like, he's like, oh, y'all saw that? This is this is me showing off, or this. No, he is that great of a filmmaker that like he's just bringing you along for it, and it doesn't feel like he's being a dick.
Even like this whole sequence here, like you had all of as Tom Hardy was falling, all of the girls like tried to reach out to catch him. Like,
to get him.
An hour ago, they would have just let him probably fall. And then that's when Charlize the Furiosa gets stabbed there. Then you have all of like the old lady in the front like stabs the bullets in his eye, and then you have the girls then kick him out, being like, these girls are now fighting back. An hour ago, they would be sitting there scared out of their minds, but now they're fighting. So everybody, like, if people said there's no plot to this, if like, dude, yeah, there might not be a plot, but every character has like a pretty damn good arc. So
and even Scrotum here, or Scrotus, whatever, I forgot. I don't know his character's name.
Scrotus the third. Scrotus the third.
He just dies, but like even he comes back for like, I'm coming to get you, buddy. He's trying to get on Nux right there. That's a CG. What do you call it? Right there. That's a CG tire when it's cutting back to Nux. And the tires are so abundantly CG and Furiosa, and I understand why. It's a safety thing, and people don't seem to understand safety.
Yeah, it's like one person goes under that thing, man. Like, this whole project shut down, and this movie will not be made, and I'm gonna be sued.
And literally, even more than that, they actually care about people's lives. God forbid.
Yeah, it's like
God forbid we try to make this.
I feel like people still think that movie making is like a hobby. Some people still think it's like a hobby and not like an actual job. Like, these people are risking their lives for your entertainment.
And that's what stunt people are, right? They literally made the Fall Guy to be some sort of love letter or something to stuntmen. Stunt people. I haven't seen it yet. I will see it soon, but we'll see. I mean,
it's online if you want to see it. It's already streaming.
Oh, so. Yeah. Like, at least like
that's a whole other conversation.
Civil War, now it's gonna be like Love Lies Bleeding.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation of how things come to. I'm honestly, Furiosa is not doing well at the box office. I would not be surprised if it's on streaming within the middle of June, maybe in the next couple of weeks. Would not be surprised.
I'd be scared if it was.
And that's just sad. You're like, yes, there's a lot of issues with movie theaters, and I'll agree that people are talking, ticket prices are high. Like, I understand that. But studios are also, they've trained audiences to wait 3 weeks, wait 2 weeks to stay at home, and you can watch it at home. You waited a year for it to come out.
Whatever, yeah.
Wait for a year for it to come out. It's another week.
Like, I know, like, when I get married and like have kids, there's gonna be a few years.
Yeah, swings in that.
No, that's literally why I got silent for a second, because I was watching it come down the line of like it's blowing up and he's putting the elephantiasis foot onto the the pedal so he can jump out, and
that's my favorite shot.
And it's like that's compositing, that's CGI.
He like turns around. Yeah, that's my favorite shot when he turns around and he sees everything exploding, and he's just like, oh shit,
genius work.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I will say I kicked myself for not seeing this more in theaters. I think I saw it maybe once or twice max.
I think I saw it 3 times in a span of like a week, and then I think I was like, okay, I'm good.
I need to see Furiosa again, but it's like,
I know they're coming out with.
I've seen this so many times where it's like, I'm not desensitized to it, but like to the point where it's like, it's become a part of my soul.
I think when Furiosa comes out, they're releasing like because I don't have the 4K of this movie. I heard the 4K transfer.
You shouldn't.
Isn't that great. And they're releasing a 4K box set. And I think I heard that George Miller might be going back and looking at the 4K for Fury Road, because he's also doing a black and white. He's also doing a black and white version, because that's going to be on the 4K. The black and white version.
Yeah, for Furiosa
and
too. Yeah,
Furiosa is going to have a black and white version too. Because this was really he originally wanted to shoot this in black and white, and the studio was like, "No, you will not be doing that."
And I understand the merit of like artists wanting to do that, but
Mad Max, thank God Logan. Honestly, thank God he didn't do it.
I'm gonna watch it in color. I don't care. Like
Yeah.
y'all can do that. Godzilla -1, yeah, you can do it in color. I understand when you mute colors and the difference between color and that is like you're gonna focus more on the story in a sense.
Hmm.
But I love color. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And I love black and white too, but I think Del Toro said it best. He was thinking about making Shape of Water in black and white. And afterwards they're like, "Oh yeah, you should just color it black and white." He's like, "That's not going to work. The makeup's not going to be the same and this and that." It's like
Hmm.
it's pointless to go back and do that. Which I mean, you can't sit there with a colorist and really, really get into it, can't you?
Yeah.
But it
Are
didn't
we
sound
gonna do
like
that?
Del Toro wanted to.
Yeah. Is Del Toro gonna sit there and do that? No.
Because it feels like a farce. It feels, pointless because it's like the decisions you make on the day of like, especially when you're shooting and composing black and white compared to, color. I think it's different.
Hmm.
Now, a version of this movie without dialogue, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. Make it like a silent movie, essentially. I mean, with the Max and Furiosa, and the new Furiosa, like they don't say anything, so it's basically like it is a silent
I
movie for them
love,
half the time.
I do love that in Furiosa. That, I mean, she doesn't really say much in this movie. She doesn't say much in that other movie too, but she's the main character again. And I
Yeah.
think for the amount of angst that she's supposed to have, and it's very hard to like, carry that. And I just say that
Hmm.
as a revenge or like a revenge movie fan. Like some of my favorite movies, Gladiator. I was talking about that, War for the Planet of the Apes. I like good revenge movies. Monkey Man was not a good one in my opinion
Hmm.
because it felt like a fake, it felt like a hollow version in a sense to some extent, and whatever. But this is how you do it, and this gets brutal right here.
Here we
Remember
go.
me. So this is the
Ugh.
perfect time to say my piece about the great Hugh Keen's Byrne, who played Immortan Joe. Every time this man came to set, this man was a straight, like people,
Hmm.
everybody loved this man in a sense, where it's like it was Jared Leto type of acting, but it actually was kind of fun where he put up his photo in like the War Boys like their gym that they're working out in, or like every time they see him, even like
Oh
in the
yeah.
town where they have to like they'll get on their knees like my lord or whatever, like
Yeah.
my
I think
my
every
emperor.
time he like walked on set, they would do it too, and he'd be like,
No, they'd be like, "Daddy's coming." They'll be on the loudspeaker. They'll be like, "Daddy's
yeah.
coming," and then they'll start getting hyped. It's like a culture, and it's like a fun culture at that. I was saying this on the Twitters yesterday that the women that the culture that or the community that Furiosa's from, they're the Vuvolini, and the original name for that was Volvolini from George Miller. He's like, let me drop that one letter so it's not
Yeah.
so on point.
Yeah, that's a little on the nose.
And he even had the writer of the Vagina Monologues. She came to the set of this because she was working, trigger warning, she was working with actual like sexual assault survivors in Africa at the time. And
Mhm.
George Miller had her come there and she was talking with the women, the wives and the other actresses and trying to just, talk about how women can be victims of men doing
Mhm.
all these terrible things. Okay, witness me. I'm sorry. Witness me. Here we go. That's one of my favorite lines of
Witness
the
me.
movie. And it's like that's this again, the music right here, the strings,
Mhm.
Junkie XL, amazing work here. This is the stunt that Guy Norris did. He did it himself. He was getting 45 G's to his body doing this stunt right here. And he could have died doing this. He didn't die doing
Mhm.
this. The stunt was successful. And they fabricated a rocking chair out of the cage that he was sitting in doing this stunt. And that sits at his house now. And he's retired. He's never doing a stunt again.
That's
Stunt
awesome.
coordination, yeah, he did Furiosa, but no more stunts. That was his last stunt for his career.
What a way to go out.
Go back to what I was saying about that writer coming. She,
Mhm.
essentially feminist writer. She's sharing all these details, and is nothing where it's like it's written into the movie, but it was something where it's like she imparted this knowledge, and they were able to like craft their characters for themselves and kind of hold themselves in a certain way. And
Mhm.
it's not like all these, especially the wives, they're not all actresses per se, right? I was, hyping up Furiosa's mother. She is not an actress per se. She only has two credits to her name within the last like calendar year. So
Mhm.
it's like good directors know how to employ even,
And
those
she,
sorts of people,
mhm.
actresses,
and she probably shot Furiosa before Anyone But You.
before anyone
So
but
like
you.
this, that
Yeah.
was her first, yeah. Like, or you can make an argument that her character in Anyone But You is the character in
Becomes
Furiosa because it takes place in Australia. So it's what that becomes.
so so by the end, those two are actually together. It's yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, no,
I
I
love
definitely
this
makes sense what
telling
you're
of
saying
the
though,
of
bringing that author on, like,
oh, even the
'cause-
War Boys, they're like, why are y'all bringing in this writer and this and that? And
yeah.
she's like, nah, come through, like, come sit with us. And there's
Mhm.
a point, he talks about it in the book where it's like George Miller is sitting on the ground and just like looking up at her and listening to her, and it's almost this thing where it's
Yeah,
like
because it's
like
like,
he's looking up and getting this knowledge from her.
because for me,
But
if I were the director, I'd be like, who am I, a man, to like
exactly,
tell them how they should feel about, like, bring in someone else, like,
and
let
it's
them build their characters around that. I'm just gonna direct them in the scene. You have your
he
own
even did
character,
that with
like,
Furiosa. He let her do her thing, and
yeah.
it's like he knew where to push and where to pull and how to figure those things out. It's not just, what shows up on camera ends up being from like all these other decisions that you don't necessarily see.
Hmm.
Talk about reshoots, man.
Here's all their
I
money in
like
that
that
shot right
he's
there. Here's all their
yeah.
money. Yeah, I think they just reused that shot again from the beginning. I think they
I
used that
literally
shot.
have no idea what you're talking about, and that means that it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's literally what's like a shot of, like, you can see like the chains going up. It was like
Yeah.
a front on shot. I think they use it in the beginning. I think it's the same shot, but again, it works because as
You
an
just
editor,
watched the whole movie.
yeah, as an editor, when you put this stuff in, it's like on a first pass, people are watching this in the theaters, they're not going to notice that. The more you watch it, you're going to be like, oh, it's the same shot. Like, like, but
Every time I watch this, literally probably every single time I've seen this movie, I'm probably dead tired. And I've never noticed. Yeah, whatever.
again, it works. I
People
could be
say
wrong, but hey,
people
it
are
works.
like, oh, like, you know, rom-coms or whatever. Those are my comfort movies. Like, this is my comfort movie.
Yeah,
And I think it says something about me. I don't know what that means,
you're
I'm
just an
gonna have
action. You're
to
just an action man. You're an action man. And I'll watch this and then put on Boy Meets World after. And that's how it works.
I probably got to put on like a Bob's Burgers or something
Yeah.
like that. Not for this. I think this is one where I'm content because the
No,
ending
yeah.
is correct. The
Yeah.
ending is
This
perfect.
isn't like too heavy for me where it's like I can't.
And that's the thing.
I'm
Anytime you have a
really
post-apocalyptic movie, Tom Hardy says it for himself, like this is not the road.
mhm.
He did not set out to make the road.
Yeah. I'm curious to, like, when that Furiosa 4K comes out, to be watching that and immediately throw this on as soon as that ends.
True.
See how it
See, that's my
plays.
problem. Why didn't they do an IMAX
Double
release?
feature.
I would have like found some way
Mhm.
to do it.
They should
Same
have.
thing with Dune. I will say,
Like a
anytime you
double
watch an
feature.
action movie, like I think if you actually like watch an action movie, you get tired afterwards because it's
Mhm.
just so intense. The best ones, like even like a John Wick, which John Wick 4 was like 3 hours. Dead tired after that. I just want to sleep after that. But like such a great movie.
This, though, I think I remember watching when I left the theater. I was like energy. I was ready to go. I was
Amped,
like, let's
amped.
go.
Oh,
Like,
after Furiosa, bro, I was driving. I wasn't saying I was driving recklessly, but I was driving fast.
But that's like I like this. Obviously, the ending you told me of him going like that doesn't work. But like this again, it plays into the myth of him like right there. He's like, I'm not gonna go up here, and like they got all their stuff. I helped you. Like we helped each other out. I'm gonna go back into the wasteland because she like looks for him here and.
But isn't that the mythic Western end, right? That he's like, I'm out.
He's like a mythical.
I'm gonna go help somebody
like,
else.
It's like in their minds, was Max even real? Like,
yeah,
like, that's the thing. Like, being like, I'll see you in the wasteland if they make the third one.
And that's I mean, I genuinely I do not know what they're gonna make this story about, and if it never happens, it's fine with me because this is a masterpiece.
If Furiosa in this, it's fine with me.
And Zach makes a good point about this end quote right here, that like, where do we go to find our better selves? It's like we have to go within ourselves to find ourselves, like our true selves. The true redemption within ourselves is within us. You can't get it from somebody else. We'll end on that note. Legendary movie. Not another one made like it.
This podcast is hosted and edited by Pat Brennan. That's me, with intro and closing music by Patrick Baxter.